Hello guys, this is Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com, and we're here today with episode number 22 in our incredible new tutorial series where you are going to learn Fusion 360 or you're going to die trying. What I'm going to need you to do is pour yourself a nice tall glass of ice cold coffee. That would be straight up black coffee poured over ice, no sugar, no sweeteners, none needed. And as you're pouring your coffee, as always, I want to give a shout out to you guys who are helping me out over at Patreon. It is your support and your encouragement that keeps this great content coming. You guys that are not helping out yet, take a look down in the description. There is a link over to my Patreon account. Think about hopping on over there and hooking a brother up. But enough of this shameless self-promotion. Let's jump in and talk about what I am going to teach you today. And what we've been doing in the last couple of lessons is stepping away from Fusion 360 for a moment and focusing on tuning up, tweaking, upgrading, and tricking out our Creality Ender 3 version 2 printer. And that's what I'm going to do again today. I'm going to show you another thing that you can do to drastically improve your print quality. Now, you know, as I'm doing this, I'm trying to find the simplest, lowest cost improvements that can give you the maximum benefit, the most bang for your buck. Now, if you remember last week, what I showed you last week is I showed you that my number one recommendation for upgrading your printer is to simply buy a spare pack of extruder nozzles. And I showed you this example, and this again is a live picture of over on your right. You can see a extruder nozzle that I'd used to make about 15 or 20 prints. And then on the left, you can see a brand new extruder nozzle. And you can see that this nozzle that I had been using had become damaged on the tip. It is partially clogged, and it is no surprise when you look at this mess here that I was not getting good prints. My prints were not adhering to the print bed, and then I had all types of quality problems in the print. Why? Because I had a damaged and partially clogged print nozzle. So I gave you a link. Link is in the description below of where you can get a pack of extruder nozzles, and that they're very, very low cost, and you can just freely exchange those whenever you think that you might have a partially clogged or damaged nozzle. That's what I talked about last week. This week we're going to do a similar thing, but even better. The upgrade that I am going to show you today is absolutely free. And so you can't get much better than that. And I think you're going to be very, very pleased. I've got a little too small there. You're going to be very, very pleased to see the feature and the improvement that you can get in your printer without spending any money at all. Okay. This is the problem that I have with my printer. And from the comments and from looking online, many, if not most, if not all of you have the same problem. And that is that these Creality Ender printers often come with a bed that is not perfectly flat. And if the bed is not perfectly flat, there's no way that you can get a perfect bed alignment, okay, because the bed is not flat. And what my problem is, and from what I hear, the problem that many of you have is the bed is not flat. It's kind of bowl-shaped and low in the middle, okay? Now, I'm not sure if it's like this, or if it's like this, or if it's some combination of kind of like a bowl shape like this. But what the end result is for a lot of us, the center point is low. Okay, the center point is low. Now, how we sometimes compensate for that is when we do the bed alignment, we align it here, 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 and here, and that's aligned perfectly. But then if we go look in the middle, the gap is too big in the middle. So how do we compensate? We bring the bed up where it's much too close here, actually probably dragging, the tip is touching the bed here, touching the bed here, touching the bed here, and then when we print in the middle, it's about right. Now, what's the problem with that? Well, one is as you're dragging your print nozzle over to the point that you're going to print, you're actually rubbing it across the bed, and that can make this be a problem where you're actually damaging the nozzle as you are scooting across the bed, dragging it. And then the second problem is that this only really allows us to print small things kind of in that sweet spot in the middle of the bed that we have got the alignment properly for. But if we want to begin to do bigger prints that occupy a larger portion of the print bed, then this doesn't work, because now it's good in the middle, but as we get out towards the edges, we have trouble extruding because that extruder, that nozzle, is actually sitting on the print bed. And so there is no way to get it where you can properly get that first layer down all the way across the base. Now, what a lot of you guys do is you run out and get one of those auto bed levelers. Now, an auto bed leveler does not really auto level the bed. What it does is the bed stays where it is, and it goes around and it kind of probes the bed, and then it maps the curvature of the bed, and then rather than printing flat, it prints to that curvature. So it adjusts the Z-axis as you're going across your layer so that it builds into it mathematically the curvature that it knows that's in the blade, that's in the bed. Okay, now you could do that, and one of those auto bed leveler probes cost anywhere from $35 to about $70, and you could run out and do that. But I'm going to show you how you can do that same thing for free. You can compensate for the curvature in your bed for free. Sound pretty cool? I hope you are as excited about this as I am. And if you guys bought the bed leveler, fine, okay, but I'm just trying to show you how really it's a lot about your printing technique and not so much about your pocketbook and how much money you have to spend on upgrades. So I'm going to show you how to do the same thing for free. So what we need to do is I'm going to show you the way we do this is we update the firmware on our printer. We update the firmware on our printer. And if you are going to do this, I got to give you a couple of warnings. Number one, you need to do it exactly the way I show you. Okay, because I did this and I got a little careless and I bricked my printer. And I bricked my printer so much that I thought I was never going to get the printer working again. But I finally, through about a day and a half worth of work, was able to go in and get the thing where it could boot again. And then after I got it to boot, then I went in and I was able to successfully do the firmware upgrade. But make sure that you follow along very, very closely. And when you do that, you'll be able to do this without messing your printer up. Now, if you do this exactly the way I do it, and you get a glitch and somehow you brick your printer, then you've got to just do like I did. You've got to go in and you've got to kind of figure out a way to get the thing to boot. So if you're a newbie and you're afraid of troubleshooting and you're afraid of kind of going in and debugging things, then maybe you should just skip this upgrade. But if you're one of the guys that really is sort of comfortable with playing around with things like this, then let's go for it. Way too much talking and not nearly enough of upgrading the firmware, and so we are going to come over here. First thing you got to do is you have to find your firmware. Let me see where that is here. Oh, it's not completely ready for this, but okay, I think that's good. I can come here. And where can you get the firmware? It is at github.com. I will put this link down in the description below, but if you just want to type it in here, it's github.com/JYERS/Marlin/releases. And then you will come down here and you will see this plethora of different firmware upgrades, and I'll show you the one that we're going to want, and I'll kind of show you what these different ones are. And then what I'll say is this JYERS, they do a whole lot of work on putting this software together, and they're offering it to you for free. You might look down there and think about dropping a few coins to these guys that are doing this great work, right? So when these guys are offering this work for free, always good to maybe drop, find their links and drop them a little bit of a thank you or a cup of coffee or so forth. Okay, now what I want you to see is there's kind of like 4 major groups of upgrades. There's all these that say E3 V2, that's Ender 3 version 2. If you don't have an Ender 3 version 2 like I do, you need to go find the firmware for your printer. But if you got the same printer that I have, the Ender 3 version 2, you can see that this E3 V2 is just referencing the printer. Now you can see that all of these then start out with BL Touch. That means if you bought that probe, if you bought that BL Touch probe that automatically goes in and maps the curvature of your bed, then that is what you would use. But we're going to show you how to do it without buying the sensor. I guess I should also say that I know what a couple of you guys have done and seem to have had luck with it. It's just I had kind of limited luck with this and not like it would always work. But some of you guys, if your print bed was like this, what you did is you came in and you stuck a piece of paper or a business card under the center, and then that kind of helped bring the center up as you pulled the edges down. I did not have that work very well for me. And so if it's working for you, great. But for me, I was not able to make that work very well. And then I see other people go in and really shim the entire print bed by putting little pieces of paper here or tape here and there and trying to get it working. I just could not get that to work at all. So I'm going to show you what I think is the easiest thing. So we don't have the BL Touch, so we are going to skip that. Then the next 2 are just default. I'm not sure what those do. Those probably take you much more closer back to the factory software. And then here we have the gold, the manual mesh ones. Okay, now you can see that there's 3x3 and 5x5. The 3x3 will take you to 9 different points on your bed to measure the curvature based on 9 points. And then the next one comes in and measures, these 2 come in and measure at 5x5, that would be 25 points. I found that to be complete overkill. I found that I could get spectacular results using the 3x3. So that is that. Let's just talk about then all of these down here, UBL, BL Touch. That's just a different set of firmware. If you have the auto bed leveler, the BL Touch auto bed leveler, you would use one of these down here if you wanted this UBL, this universal interface capability. But that's not what we're going to be talking about today. All right, now you can see then what we want is we want either the 3x3 4.2.2 or 4.2.7. This is very important. You get the one that corresponds to the motherboard that you have. You get the one that corresponds to the motherboard you have. What motherboard do you have? Well, unfortunately, Creality did not think that it might be nice out on the outside of the printer to tell you what motherboard you have. So you're going to have to kind of dig into this. And what I will show you is the motherboard is underneath this left part of the printer. It's underneath the left part of the printer. And what I will say is there is one screw that is right here on the top. You have to take that screw off, and then on the bottom there are 2 or 3 screws over on this region. You have to take those off, and then you have to pop the cover off, and then if you look, there will be a Creality logo, and then by that Creality logo it will tell you either V4.2.2 or V4.2.7. There's no way for you to know what version of the motherboard you have without taking that cover off and without looking at the board. And there's a lot of wires in there. You might have to kind of pull the wires side to side to find that. But when you find that version number, then you will be good to go. I'm not going to do that for you because you can see that I've got my cameras and my microscope, and there's no way that I could do that without just knocking everything over. But I think at this point, you guys should be able to take 3 or 4 screws out, see what motherboard you have, and then put those screws back in. Okay, now, just because I have version 4.2.2, there is no reason for you to think that you would have the same thing. You need to go in and you need to look and find that. And I need to make an adjustment here. Okay, we'll come back over here. And like I say, what I am going to use is this one, which is Manual Mesh 3.3 version, 3x3 version 4.2.2 version 2.01. And so I'm going to click that. And when I click it, what you can see is, if I get this where you can see it, right here, it downloaded. Okay, now what I need to do is, my printer is off. My printer is off. Let's come back over here. My printer is off. I'm going to take the SD card out, and then I'm going to put the SD card in a little adapter. Now let me put the SD card down in my computer's USB. All right, with it down there, then what we need to do is we need to come back over to the view of my computer screen, and you can see that I have the firmware downloaded over here. And now what I need to do is I need to format that SD card. Now, if you have STL files on there or G-code files that you need to use, you need to back up the card before you do this, okay? But I don't have anything on that card that I want, so I'm not going to back it up, and I'm just going to come over here, and then you can see that the card is here. Doesn't see it. Let me make sure here. Okay, I didn't have it quite plugged in enough there. Now let's try again, and I am going to right mouse click. Make sure that you are on your USB. Make sure that you're on the right one, because you wouldn't want to format your main drive. But I will come here and I will format. It's okay. We're going to do a FAT32, and it's okay to do the quick format. And then I'm going to say okay, start. And then it says it will erase everything. That's okay. It says it is formatted. That is good. That's what we wanted. Now that it is formatted, we are going to open it up. There it is. And now if you look down here, this file that you downloaded, this firmware file that you downloaded, you're going to drag. I need to get it where I can see the folder and that at the same time. You're going to drag and drop it over to your SD card. Okay. And now, out of an abundance of caution, I had actually kind of bricked it one time, and I began to think that it might be because this file name was too long. So we're going to right mouse click, and we are going to rename. And then what we are going to rename it is firmware1.bin. Firmware1.bin. I suggest that you use that exact file name, firmware1.bin, enter. Okay, and there it is. Now we do want to be careful to eject this. We want to eject it, so I'm going to tell Windows to eject mass storage device. Okay, it gave me the happy little ding that I can eject it now. And so I will reach over and get this, bring it out, and now I'm going to put the SD card into the Creality Ender 3 version 2. Now I'm going to get a view here, a new camera view for you guys. That should be good. Okay, let me see here. Give me just a second. Okay, so what you can see right here is you can see the screen. Okay, you can see the screen of my printer. The SD card is now in the printer, and now I'm going to turn the printer on. When I turn it on, what it should do is it should take a few seconds to boot, and then we should see a new home screen. So let's try that. I'm going to turn it on, hold our breath. I don't want to brick this again. I spent 2 days getting this unbricked. Yes, yes. Okay, let's see. That looks like a pretty good focus there that it got. Okay, Shazam. What do you guys see? You guys see that you have some new menu items. You've got this new menu item that says level, right? You got this new menu item that says level. That is pretty cool. Now what I want to do is I want to show you two different things. There is one thing on here that's new that is just an old-fashioned bed leveling without doing the compensation for the curvature. But I want to show you guys that because it by itself is worth the upgrade. It's very helpful. Because I don't know if you know this, but you remember how you home the thing to level the bed, you home the print head, and then after that you disable the stepper motors, and then you use your hand to move this back and forth. Well, at this point, the Z-axis stepper motor is not locked, and you can actually move this thing without intending. You can move it up and down if you're not careful as you're moving it back and forth. And so I want to show you kind of a neat feature that this new software has. We're going to come over to Prepare, and under Prepare you can see that there is this setting that says Manual Leveling, and no, it doesn't want to focus. So let me go in and let me see if I can fix this camera. Okay, let me just see if I can do a turn off autofocus. I'm sorry about this. I thought that it would be able to do it, but I am going to just not fight with this thing and see. What do you think? Is that pretty good focus? Okay, we'll try to just leave it right there. All right, so now what I'm going to show you is this feature that is called Manual Leveling. And so I'm going to come there and it's going to home. Okay, that's good. It's going to home. And then it is going to say, okay, where do I want to go? I want to go to the bottom left. Okay, the bottom left is left and bottom is closest to me. And so it puts it there. I don't touch the head, so I couldn't be messing that head up. And now I'm going to kind of go like this. Okay, that looks pretty perfect to me. Now where do I want to go? I want to go top left. Okay, top left is over here. And then same thing, I want to kind of get that down. Wow, that was kind of loose. Okay, that feels pretty perfect. Then I'm going to go to top right. That feels great. And then I'm going to go to bottom right. Okay, and same thing, I need to tighten it up. I always remember clockwise makes it tighter. Clockwise makes it tighter. That feels great. Now I'm going to go to center. And now, of course, when I go to center, this is not, when I go to center, it is not good because it is low, it's too far away. So what I would normally do is I would come in and I would tighten the 4 by maybe 1/8 of a turn, and then the center would be right, but then the problems is the corners would be wrong. But this is just a manual leveling that you could do, that if you just wanted a better way to level your print bed. But that is not all we are going to be doing. We're going to come over here, and in fact I don't use that, but I was just showing you that it is there. So we're going to go back, and instead of prepare, we're going to come over here to level. All right, now what do we want to do? We want to make leveling active. Okay, we'll make leveling active. I guess we have to make leveling active after we create a mesh. And so what we're going to do is we're going to come down and we're going to create a new mesh. Okay, create a new mesh. And what it's doing is it says it's homing, so we'll wait for it. Okay, now I will say I do like to level the bed using manual leveling like I just did before I create the mesh, because I want to start with the bed absolutely as level as I can. So you saw me do that. I leveled it using the settings under manual level. Okay, I did that. But now I'm going to compensate for the curvature. So it tells us where do we want to go. Okay, we are in the first position. And now you see you don't touch the knobs under there. Don't touch the knobs under there. What you do is you come in with your paper, and that is too loose. So I'm going to come down to micro step down. I want that Z-axis to come down, and so I'm going to come down. And it starts sort of far away. Okay, and there, I've come down, and that really, really feels good. Okay, that feels good. If it's too tight, you what? You micro step up. Now we're going to go to the next position, right? And that is too loose, so I'm going to micro step down. Do you guys see? You probably, okay. Do you see here how I'm doing micro step down? And so I just click with my thumb. You see I've got my thumb here. I click with my thumb, micro step down, still too loose, too loose. I'm just clicking, clicking, clicking. Wow. Coming down, coming down. Okay, that feels pretty perfect right there. Now we're going to go what? To the next point. Okay. And now that is too loose, so I'm going to go down. Usually it's too loose because I think it defaults there just so it doesn't accidentally drag across and touch. Okay. Micro step down. Okay, that feels pretty perfect. And now we'll go to next point. You see, guys, this doesn't take very long to do this. Okay. That one was about right. So here we're going to go down. Okay, now we're going to go next point. Okay, that one, believe it or not, is kind of tight. So I'm going to go up on that one. This is kind of crazy. I was not expecting that to be tight. There, that feels good. I'll go to the next point. That one needs to go down. That feels perfect. Next point. Need to go down. That feels perfect. And then I think I've got one more. Next point. That's too tight. That feels perfect. Now, how long did that take? How long did that take? It did not take very long at all. Now, what you want to make sure that you do is you want to make sure that you save the mesh. You can actually look at it and let's see. You want to save the mesh. Okay. And now it is saved. And now you want to make sure that you have this leveling active. So you want to make sure that you have the leveling active so it uses that, that map that you just created. Now let's see. Let's look and say we're going to view the mesh now. You can come down here and view the mesh and viewer show values. Okay, let's see if we can. It's up here, view mesh like this. Okay, all right, and that you can see is sort of a picture of how I was low in the center and I was high around the outside. So it gives you a little bit of a feel for exactly how your bed is being compensated. So now we can go back. And then next up, what I'm going to show you is you just have to put in a line of G code on Cura. Okay, you have to put a line of G code in on Cura, and don't forget this part, that you've activated it here in the printer firmware, but now also on Cura you're going to want to put a line of G code, and then you only have to do this one time, but don't forget to do it. So I am calling up Cura. Give me just a second. Okay, we'll come over here to Cura, and you can see that my printer is set on the Creality Ender 3. What I'm going to come down is I'm going to say Manage Printers, and so I want to manage the Creality Ender 3. And what I want to do is I want to go to I want to come here, and now I want to go to Machine Settings. And under Machine Settings, what I need you to do is come down here, and then you see this line. You should have a line, and I hope that you can see this. It's about, on mine, under the G code, it's about the fourth line. It's the third line that says G28 Home All Axes. Well, what you need to do is you need to, and this is under the Start G code, you need to put a new line of code. And so what you'll do is you'll come there at Axis, you'll hit Enter, and then you need to put this line of code, upper M 420 space uppercase S1. M 420 with M uppercase space uppercase S1. And what that will do is that will be G code that will tell your print to use that that information that you have put in the printer about your bed. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go out and I'm going to print. I'm going to create a print. And then what we're going to do is we're going to look and see how that first level looks using this capability. Okay, so let's just give it a second here. Okay, and now I have basically designed a very simple, just flat plate that occupies a large portion of the build area. I put that over to the 3D printer, and now I am printing it, and I am most delighted by the results that I'm getting. I will show you here, and you can see that we've got the skirt, and the skirt is just absolutely beautiful. We have the outline of that flat plate, and it is absolutely beautiful, uniform all the way around. And then you can see the first layer going down. It's just going down absolutely perfectly, going down just like smoothing on peanut butter. That first level is absolutely beautiful. And what I like is in all four corners all the way around, this thing is absolutely perfect. So what have we learned? We've learned that if you upgrade your firmware to the firmware that I showed you, you can compensate for a print bed that is not perfectly flat. You can do it manually, and then those settings are saved to the firmware on your printer. So as long as you don't change it, you can continue to do that. You don't have to do that step every time. Now, every once in a while you can come in and do it if you want to, but what I found is I can do multiple prints without having to go in and re-normalize or to create a new mesh. Okay, that is just absolutely pretty cool. And so guys, I hope that you are as excited about this as I am. But what I've shown you is that the two biggest improvements, the two biggest upgrades that you can make to your Creality Ender 3 version 2 printer, The first one costs 10 or 15 bucks for a pack of extruder nozzles so that you can always have a fresh nozzle on your printer. And the second one is upgrading your firmware where you can manually compensate for a bed that is not perfectly flat. Guys, does this make sense? I hope that you are as excited about this as I am. And I'll be honest with you, I've had these two upgrades for a while, and it is just absolutely amazing the quality of prints that I am getting. Okay, I hope you guys are all right with me taking a few lessons on upgrading the printer. Probably what will come in next week is we'll come back to Fusion 360, and we'll do a little bit more learning on Fusion 360, do a couple of lessons there, then come back and show you a few more tweaks and upgrades and tricking outs that you can do on your Enter printer. Guys, hope you're having as much fun taking these lessons as I am making them. If you enjoyed the lesson, be sure to give us a thumbs up. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel, and then share this. Share these videos with other people, because the world needs more people doing engineering and fewer people sitting around watching silly cat videos. Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com. I will talk to you guys later.